G'day guys, how's it all going? So once again, here I am at 6 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday recording a video for you. So please watch these videos and enjoy them and like them and do all that other stuff, right? Subscribe and all that other nature. In this video, we're going to look at a new data type and we're going to look at what's called a compound type. So up until this point, we've been looking at data types that are known as singular value data types, or also known as scalar types. So the integers, the floating point numbers, the booleans, and the chars are all considered single value types, okay, or scalar types. But a compound type basically allows you to store more than one value against a variable, right? So the first one we're going to be looking at is a tuple. So what is a tuple? Well, essentially, a tuple is a data type that allows you to group multiple values together in between parentheses, right? Now, the order of the values that go into a tuple are important, and also you can specify different data types at each ordering of that tuple. Now that might not make a lot of sense to you right now, so let's just have a look at an example, right? So let's say, for example, we have a player, right? Like so. Let player, and let's say we want to store their coordinates in a game, the velocity that they're going at, maybe the type of player that they are, and whether they have a boost or not, right? Let's just go with that for the moment. So let's go. I want an x coordinate. So inside the parentheses, we can specify, all right, the first coordinate will be x. So that's 1. Let's say the next one's a y coordinate. So that's 2. Then we'll say z. So we'll make it 3D. That's 3. Then the velocity, we're going to specify that as a floating point number. So it's a f64. And you can kind of see what it's doing up there on the screen there, right? It's detected that we have basically 4 things in order. The first 3 are I32s, and then the last one's an F64. Now we'll specify the type. We'll use a char to do that. So the player's type A, whatever that means. And then we'll store a boolean as the last one, which is true, right? In this case, they still have their boost, right? So this is what's known as a tuple, right? Because we've collated a whole set of data inside of a parentheses. You'll also notice that I haven't explicitly set the values, but you can. So if I just double click this, the IDE will do it for me. There we go. So you can also explicitly set the values of a tuple ahead of time if you want to as well, just like you can with any other scalar type, into whatever. So that's how you can create. Oh, sorry, it's how you can declare and instantiate a tuple, right? Now, keep in mind that the values inside of a tuple are actually immutable, right? I can't come in here and say I want a mutable I32, right? Basically, tuples don't allow for that, right? What you can do, and what I'll show in a minute, is you can make the whole tuple mutable. All right, now it's complaining at the moment. Ah, you can make it fully mutable. I'm not sure why that's not working there. Anyway, let's move on. I'll fix that in a moment. Basically, now that we have a tuple, we need to, at some point in the future, be able to get the data out of it, right? So there are 2 ways to do that with tuples or tuples, whatever you want to call them. One is the indexing approach, and the other one is what we call destructuring. Now, if you've done JavaScript before, you probably are aware of what destructuring is. But for those who haven't, I'll show you what that means in a minute. So let's do the index approach first. So say I want to get the x coordinate. I can go let x be equal to the player dot 0. Now, the reason why it's 0 is because I've referred to the first value in this tuple as at index 0 position. So the next one will be index 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So x is the first one. Then I want to get y. I think you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So now I'll access it at the 1 position. Then Z would be at the 2 position. And I think you can start to understand what's going on here. Velocity equals player.3. But just in case you don't, I'm going to continue doing the rest. Player model type equals player.4. And then lastly, has boost equals player.5. Cool. So that allowed me to access all of the values inside of the player tuple, right? And then we can print all this out. So let's just quickly do that. And I'm just going to put inside of 2 separate lines here. Player is at position, let's say in parentheses, X, comma, I will go like that, Z, right? And moving at a speed of velocity, like so. Then I'll create a new line. So if you're unsure, I haven't really explained this before, but if you want to create another line where you can put text, you can just use the forward space, or the, I think they call it, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the forward space. I always get backspace and forward space the wrong way. Forward slash or backslash, sorry, the wrong way. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired this morning. I apologize. Player model type is player model type. They still have boost as boost. Oops. Now, I'm not too sure what's going on here. Ah, I'm an idiot. I need to not have the parentheses there. Cool. Now it works. Sorry, I had actual double quotes there and double quotes here, and that's why it wasn't picking up that these were variables. Cool. All right. So if I just put a semicolon at the end here, like so, and we run this, now you'll see that it's able to pick up the fact that the player is at position 1, 3, 2. So that's the indexed X, Y, and Z position. And then it's moving at a speed of 10.5, which is the indexed 3 or velocity position. And then model type and has booster 4 and 5. And as you can see, player model type is A. So A, they still have a boost and it says true, right? Which is what I've stored here. So that's one way of getting all of the values out of a tuple if you need to. However, I like the secondary approach that we're about to see, which is what we call destructuring. Now, it's basically the same as JavaScript, but you do something like this, right? So let's just comment all this out. And instead of going line by line and going, I want to get X at index 0, 1, and 2, all you really need to do is do a let, and then inside parentheses, you can now specify inside of like this exactly where you want the variables to go. So these are all individual variables now. All right, so velocity, player, model, type, and has boost. And you can set that to player. So now what it's doing is it's basically, well, it's actually detected it here. It's saying, okay, because X is the first position in the tuple, that's been put into the X variable. And it's done in a way that it can be all done on one line, right? Now, I wish the ID would not always show up the data types after each one, but it just does. But essentially, it'll go X matches this, Y matches this, Z matches this, and I think you get the idea, right? And so if I now save this and I run it, you're going to get the same result down here, right? The exact same messaging. It's just now, instead of having it over multiple lines and having to refer to everything by index, I'm just positioning it inside of parentheses to destructure the player tuple and have the values inside that tuple become individual variables. Okay. So that is generally the way that you use a tuple. The last thing I want to point out is the mutation part. So I did try this a second ago where I tried to add the word mutate. And for whatever reason, I was under the impression that I could just do this. But I don't think it's going to allow me to do so. But the idea is what ends up happening is by doing that, you can actually set player. I think I've put the mute in the wrong place. I think where it needs to go is before the variable. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, that's the mistake I made. I put it in the wrong spot. So now what I can do down in the code later is I can actually change the player value. So let's say now I'm at position 4, 7, and 10. And now I'm only going at 2.3. And I'm still A. But I use my boost, right? Let's just say I did that, for example. And now you'll see it'll actually tell me, well, it tells me it's never read. So technically what I should have done here is move that up here and put the line straight after, right? Now it's going to send me a warning saying it was overwritten. I'm just going to ignore that warning for this example. But just know if you don't use the original thing, it's going to recommend why you just set it to that in the first place, right? But I'm just trying to demonstrate you can mutate a tuple. So let's just run this. You're going to get that warning. But ultimately, you'll see that we were able to mutate that tuple, update the values, and use them accordingly in that print statement. Cool. So that is your first compound type, known as the tuple. Basically, I use them kind of sparingly in Rust, but there will be times where you want to group some information together and it doesn't change a whole lot. And then that's the other thing too, is that out of the box, we can see that tuples are read-only. So all this data is never able to be changed. You have to change the whole tuple in order to change the values inside of a tuple, right? So you have to basically redeclare a tuple. So that always means that the values inside of a tuple are read-only. That's the other thing I want to quickly point out there. So that's it for this video. Basically, we'll move on to another compound type in the next video. But I'll see you then.